is up, my retro soul rebels? Lisa Marshall here, ready to show you how to make your tracks as smooth as a vintage soul song. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to create buses in Logic Pro. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by so many tracks on your session or struggled to get a cohesive mix, buses can be a game changer. So let's dive in. Okay, so this is one of my tracks or one of my sessions called Love Won't Let Me Fall Unless I'm Falling for You. And it's a bit of a mess. So I thought this would be perfect to take this opportunity, not only to get my buses together, but to show you how to put yours together as well. So as I was saying before, in simple terms, it's a group channel that allows you to route multiple tracks to one fader. So think of it as like, as you can see in my thumbnail, so think of it as literally putting stuff on a bus, like all your horns on a bus, to take them all to the same place. I don't know if it was a helpful analogy or not. You might send all drum tracks to a drum bus so you can control the volume and add compression to the entire kit. So buses allow you to treat a group of similar instruments all together, so they sound like they were recorded all cohesively, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of really cool tricks you can do down the road, but today we are keeping it very, very basic, just so you know how to put your buses together. You can follow me as I mix this song, and I will go more into depth about parallel compression and reverb and all that fun stuff that you can do on your mix bus. Buses help you stay organized by grouping similar tracks together, making your session look cleaner and less overwhelming. And for efficiency, instead of adding the same reverb to 10 different tracks, you can send them all to one bus and apply the effect once. And this also saves CPU power. Things sound more cohesive, more glued together. For instance, vocal harmonies sound like they've all were together, maybe in the same vocal booth. Plus, you can also automate the bus for like swells and panning and effects, and it will all apply to all the tracks routed to it. Again, cohesiveness. Let's make some buses. Woo! Let's make some buses. Here's a keynote. This is a mistake I made in the beginning, in the early days of creating my tracks. Wait to make your mix bus until after you've made all of your instrument buses. From the top. So I've got a rhythm guitar track, and I've got a lead guitar track. I am not going to put those in a bus together because these are going to have very different tones, and I want to treat them separately. And they're only one track each. Anyway, I'm probably going to use some amp simulation on this. Also, don't just ignore all the stuff, the plugins right now. This is an old session that I'm cleaning up. This was the old days of my my beginning days of learning how to mix. So just ignore all that stuff. We're just focusing on buses. Okay, here we go. So right here, I've got a organ track. I've got the bottom and the top. Hold down Shift and then click so I can highlight the two together. Then we're going to go to stereo out, and we're going to go to bus. Okay. As you can see, there's already some like ambience and reverbs. These are really all attached to the horns and the strings. Don't worry about that. We're going to create bus 13. Bam. Now your bus is going to come and it's going to show up down here. You see up top here, it says 13. That is your bus. Now I'm going to go ahead and label this as organ bus. Then on this read or red, however you want to say it, I'm going to turn it off and turn it back on. This is going to move that bus, hopefully, right beside the organs. Yes. Lovely. I love this. Logic is pretty smart. If you go ahead and name your bus, it usually knows where to go. If, for instance, I wanted to do some fancy stuff on that piano, I might add a bus later. Right now, we're going to leave that alone. Also, I like to color coordinate my buses. Great, so we've got our first bus, and we're also going to go back and we're going to unpan all this stuff too. Again, ignore all this extra stuff. Ignore the panning, ignore all the plugins. This is from an old project. I am just focusing on getting these buses down. I'll have more steps to follow on how we're going to start to mix this using volume and no plugins. Okay, so again, we're going to click on this shift and go all the way to the end of the entire section of harmonies. As you can see, they're all in hot pink. Boom. I've highlighted them all. We're going to go to stereo out, bus. I'm going to go ahead and make this bus 14. We're going to come down here. We're going to ignore that. Here it is, bus 14. I'm going to put harm bus. Then I'm going to click on this read and then click it back on, and there we go. There's my harm bus. We're going to go ahead and color coordinate that. Boom. All right. Here we go with the lead vocal bus. Same thing. Click the first track, depress shift, hold it down, click to the edge of, or click to the end of how many tracks that you want to include in this. We're going to click stereo out, bus 15. We're going to come down here. We're going to make sure this says 15 up top. We're going to hit read. Actually, lied about that. We're going to put lead vocal bus. Boom. Now let's see if this works. Bam. There it is. Let's go ahead and make it the same color. Okay. Now you can see I've got two different bass lines. These are two different players, so I'm going to leave them alone at the moment. Let's go ahead to the drums. Here you can see all the drums. We've got the kick out. We've got the overhead, snare, ride. We're going to click it all the way to the end that I've already, because they're already color coordinated. So again, depress shift, hold it down to the edge of the track that you want to, all the tracks you want to include. Stereo out. We're going to the bus. 16. We're going to make sure it says 16 here. And drum bus. So you're getting the idea. Hopefully, we're just going to keep on doing this because I don't know if you're like me, but I need to see. Sometimes I need somebody just to walk me through the whole thing till I can understand it. So I'm here for you. I got you. I got you. Now let's turn that into the right color. Bam. Okay, so we've got shaker and tambourine. I usually put these on the same bus and kind of treat them together. However, I don't think I'm going to be using any of those in this song, but I'm going to go ahead and create a bus anyway for the percussion. I know I'm definitely not going to be using conga, I think. We're just going to set that aside. Again, shift, click, stereo out, bus 17. We just go to the next bus. There is 17. We're going to do all of these so you can see how we're going to get to the mix bus. We're going to put percussion bus. Right? Read on or off on, and then we should have it right there. Look at that. Boom. All right. You can see I've got all these string tracks because I've been trying out different ideas and I just created a buttload of tracks. I only have one cello track. Here's what I suggest because cello is so different from violin. Leave the cello alone or create its own bus. So that way, for instance, if you want to go back and add another cello part, you can throw it into the same bus. So even though it's only one channel of cello, I'm going to go ahead and create the bus for this. Just because in the future, I might be adding more cello. So boom, 18. We're going to go down here. It says 18. We're going to make sure you write it first so it knows where to put it. We're going to turn the reed off, turn it back on. There's your cello bus, and we're going to coordinate that color. All right. So strings, even though I'm using some violas and some like violin 1s and violin 2, now I may go and create separate buses for all of those. But right now, I'm just going to put them all in the same bus. So at the very least, when I go back through here and I do some gain control on the entire project, that's another great thing for buses. You can also use that to help you put everything kind of in that about minus 18 to 15 dB that you want things sitting to begin your mix. Otherwise, your analog plugins will get overloaded, maybe not work as great. That is just what I have found. That is my 2 cents. So all the strings, shift, click, stereo out, bus 19. Let's go find that bus. We're going to make sure it says 19 up here on the input. That's what I thought it was. Make sure you label it first. Strings bus. Boom. Turn off reed, turn it back on. Boom. There's our strings bus. Let's turn it to the right color. Right on. And you can see right now all the buses are saying stereo out. We'll fix that when we go to create our mix bus. Okay, we got one French horn. I'm going to leave it for now. We have one saxophone. I'm not even sure if I'm keeping this. However, we got 2 trumpets. Let's go ahead and put these in a bus together. And I'm just going to go ahead and skip. I know I definitely want French horn. And I know for me personally, if I'm going to use horns and I'm going to use trumpet, I always put a sax in with the trumpet. It just gives it a more retro feel, a more authentic feel is what I'm looking for. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put that in 22. We're going to make sure that says 22. And we're going to say trumpet bus. And turn it off, turn it on. There we go, right there next to our trumpets. Lovely. I've got some vibes here. I'm going to leave those alone. Mainly because if I am going to use the vibes at all, they're going to be pretty low and in little sections. Sometimes I just leave that stuff alone and let the mix bus handle that, because later, as you'll see, when I'm mixing, I like to mix into the mix bus. I like to create the chain that would have happened at Stax Records. Okay, so now we've got 2 whirlies, 2 Wurlitzers right here. We're going to go ahead and create a bus for that. There it is, 23, right? 23, 23. Whirly bus. And turn off reed, turn it on. There we go, went right there. Make it the right color. Looks like I got a couple of studio strings here that got away from me. So we're just going to go ahead and throw those into the strings bus as well. So this is a great way to see, okay, well, I didn't see these extra tracks. All you got to do, look, bam, now it's in the strings bus with the rest of the strings. We can move those after we get out of the vertical slider mix board here. Yeah, that's a technical term. So I've got these mellotrons. We're going to go ahead and create a bus for that. And we're going to make sure, right? 24, 24. And we'll call this mellow bus. Turn off read, turn it on. Bam. There it is. Oh yeah, let's change the color. All right, these audio tracks are going to be for my reference tracks. So typically it'll go ahead and set up these with your MIDI instruments, especially for strings and horns. So that's all this is. I probably will end up getting rid of it and using my own reverb like Abbey Road's plates. They have a delicious reverb for strings. We are now going to create our master bus. And how we're going to do that is we are going to grab all of the stereo outs, like all the ones that we didn't put through a bus, into a bus. We want it to go to the master bus. You're going to hold down the command key. Okay, so now we're going here to the organ bus. Remember, we're looking for anything that says stereo out, the piano. We want that go to the mix bus. Here's the harm bus. Here's the lead vocal bus. Here are the basses. We want to make sure they go. Here's the drum bus. Again, I'm just holding down command while I highlight all of these. Here's the percussion bus. Here's the congas, just in case. We just want to make sure everything's going out to the mix bus in case we decide to use it. Here's the cello bus. Here's the strings bus. Here's the French horn, saxophone, trumpet bus, vibes, because it says stereo out. Anything that says stereo out, we're putting it into the mix bus. Whirly bus. This I'm not sure what it is, but it's got to go to the mix bus. Mellotron. Okay, however, I'm leaving my reference tracks out of the mix bus because I don't want them to be affected by the plugins that I'm using. I want to hear those reference tracks in their raw form. And I mean like tracks like Aretha Franklin, or maybe I'll grab a Curtis Mayfield kind of thing when I'm trying to shape various tones of my instruments. Okay, so now we're just going to, everything's highlighted. We're going to do stereo out bus. I like to put it on bus number 1 if possible. Boom. And you see, for some reason, sometimes it just won't. It's probably because it's an old track. Don't panic. Just come down here and find a different bus. Let's try 10. There we go. You just want to make sure that the number is going to show up here. You want to make sure that all these outs are being routed to this end. So this is now our mix bus. And the color of our mix bus, we're going to make it dark purple. Okay, so now we have everything going to the mix bus. I want to play a little bit of this so you can see that it's all coming through here. I mean, it's, and of course the master track as well. As a matter of fact, we're just going to take these off the master track. So you can see everything is going to the mix bus and the master track. And I'm just kind of giving a once over to make sure that the instruments that are playing are actually playing through their buses as well. And just make sure that the numbers are popping up here on the input and it matches your output bus. And I hope that helps get your project together, get your mix buses together, and let's do some mixing together. The other thing I want to show you actually real quick, which I think is pretty important. I'm going to take over 7 because it's right next to the mix bus. I'm going to go to 7. And the reason I'm getting rid of these is not that they're not good plugins. I just prefer to use Universal Audio. We're going to also call this Mix Verb. So what I'm doing is I am going to put in a pure plate. We're going to also turn this into a stereo track. That is how you do it. Right there. If you see just one circle up top, that is a mono track. If you want to turn it into a stereo track, you just click on it and you get the 2 little circles. That is a stereo track. And I want the reverb to be a stereo track. Let's grab pure plate. I love pure plate because looky here, you can do low cut right there. And I'm just going to look for we're going to do a medium plate right now. We're going to do a medium bright plate. Okay, that'll work for me as long as there is a high pass filter on the reverb so it doesn't muddy up the mix. And the reason I'm doing that is because I basically want everything to sound like it was recorded in the same room. Stax Records especially, and this is what I'm trying to emulate in my upcoming EP and my mixes, really relied on the reverb of the room. So, you know, with everybody multi-tracking together all in the same room, what kind of natural reverb would they have? And so far, this is my favorite one. So share so deep. What a thing you had me. Now when I held inside, I didn't realize you were mine. You can hear it just gives it a little bit more cohesiveness at the beginning, and I just can't stand no reverb, really dry tracks when I'm going back through to start doing the balancing of this track. So I need a little reverb, and it just makes sense to me. If it's in a room, you've got natural reverb, right? All right, so if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments how you're using buses in your own projects. And as always, keep creating. Keep creating. The world needs you. So to recap, the reason why buses are so powerful, they help organize your session. It saves some CPU power, and it helps to create a more polished mix. Even if you're working on a simple production, just guitar and vocals, I really recommend using buses. There's so much you can do. There is, serial compression, parallel compression. There are sends you can do for cool delay tricks and reverb tricks. So that's just my 2 cents. I hope this helped. I hope it made sense. And sometimes I have discovered, even if it doesn't make full sense to you at the moment, if you just try it and as you are working in it, it all starts to you start to have those aha moments. Anyway, that's what happens for me. So, again, thanks for hanging out with me. I will be mixing this song live on YouTube and sharing all of the tips and tricks that I have been learning about the techniques and the tricks that they used at Stax Records. I find it absolutely fascinating and exciting. Take care, and until next time, I will see you then.